And you're watching HuffPost Live. I'm Mark Lamont Hill. 2 years ago, Jeremy Lin became an overnight sensation with the New York Knicks when the undrafted Harvard graduate went from being the last man on the bench to leading the Knicks to victory over the Nets with 25 points. But that was just the beginning for Jeremy Lin. He went on to score over 20 points in 9 of 10 straight games, including a career-high 38 points against Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. And following that up with a last-second three-pointer to defeat the Toronto Raptors. Lin has since taken his talents to Houston, and he joins us now to talk basketball and the work his charity, the Jeremy Lin Foundation, is doing to help empower children. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well.
So talk to me about this charity. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, but before we get to that, I heard that you had written an article saying that I can't play. What's up with that, man?
I was gonna get there.
I didn't read it, but I just heard.
We can, so y'all got that article? Y'all got that article? Bring it up.
Oh, they have it.
Yeah, I see it's right there. The Linsanity Sham, why Jeremy Lin really can't play. So if you want to start here, we can start here. So, and I like you. I think you're a good guy. And I was cheering for you. I was rooting for you when you were in New York. But I think people went too far. I think you are a good NBA point guard. But if people were putting you up there with like the greats of all time, because that start you had with New York was like among the greatest people had seen from a starter in years. And I said he's not quite that good. And that's all. I just don't think you're quite that good. But I think you can play.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And I'm sure you have people all the time who do that.
Oh yeah, I mean it seems like these days it's either I'm the best ever, I'm the worst ever. So
exactly.
It's probably somewhere in between.
And that's all I'm saying. I think you're somewhere. I think you're a good, solid NBA point guard. Maybe a backup, maybe a starter, but somewhere in that range. Cool. I just don't want people putting you in John Stockton territory yet.
Oh no, yeah. But I appreciate the honesty.
But tell me this, first of all, tell me about the foundation, because that actually is good stuff. And that's one of the things I appreciate about you is the service you offer the world.
Yeah, no, we've just been, trying to find ways to empower children and also to be able to just be there for them and show them that we love them and care for them. And we feel like there's a lot of kids out there that are dealing with maybe issues that are kind of swept under the rug. And so, our foundation is just aimed at going into specific communities or areas and trying to find out what is that need in that community and being able to address it. And so it'll look different everywhere we go.
Right. What are some big issues you guys want to address or find yourself addressing?
For example, in Houston, we work with a lot of immigrants and refugees and people coming from different countries and not being able to speak English and not having the money to be able to have a quote-unquote normal upbringing for their children, and so it's kind of a tough situation. I think in the Bay Area, we've done a lot of stuff in East Palo Alto and the Tenderloin in San Francisco, just really impoverished areas. And then, overseas, we've done stuff. In Taiwan, there's like an Aboriginal community that we always kind of go check out, and they kind of get swept under the rug as well. So it just looks different everywhere you go.
Wow, it must feel good to be able to actually reach back and do some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's something I've always loved doing, and it started with my teammates growing up, and some of them lived in East Palo Alto. It was a really rough neighborhood, and so when I would go pick them up, sometimes they talk about like gunshots and different things like that, and I realized like my upbringing was so different, and so I always told myself if I get a chance, I'm gonna kind of go back and help out. Speaking
of your upbringing, was it hard for your friends, your family who watched you grow up to imagine you being where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to imagine it too. Like, there are still times when I have to like pinch myself, and it's like, okay, I'll wake up and be like, what do I have to do today? And I'll be like, I have to play basketball, I have to go work out. There are still days when I'm like, that's so crazy, or that's so weird. My other friends are wearing a suit and tie and going to a cubicle and doing their thing. But I get to wear shorts and tank tops and things like that. So. But yeah, my friends and family, I think there are always different times and different things that kind of happen, and we're just kind of blown away at, the journey. Were
you discouraged by like friends and family from pursuing this journey along the way?
Yeah, for sure. My mom, she was kind of ridiculed or made fun of by other people growing up because we played so much basketball, and everyone's just like, why do you let your children play so much basketball? Like, they always said like there's a saying, and they say it in Chinese, but it's like they're not gonna be able to rely on that to like feed themselves when they're older. And now it's kind of like it worked out, and so I'm thankful to my parents. They really they just saw how much I enjoyed playing, and me and my brothers enjoyed playing, and they were just like, hey, if it makes you that happy, go for it and play as long as you can.
Did they think you were going to go pro?
No, like none of us knew. We didn't even think I was going to make it to college to play. We just love playing. And
that's crazy to me. I mean, because you're one of the better high school players in the state.
Yeah, but like when I was a sophomore, my high school coach was like, "Dude, you can play in college," and I was just like, "All right, dude." Like,
I just want to play right now. Right?
It's like, let's just worry about my junior year. But yeah.
So then Stanford is a school that you wanted to be at. Cal's a school you wanted to be at. They didn't heavily recruit you despite being one of the best players in the state. You could have walked on at a big school like that. You decided to go to Harvard instead. What made you make that choice?
I just wanted to have more security in a spot on the team. And so you know how it is with walk-ons versus scholarships. It's just kind of you're expendable at some point.
Yeah.
But Harvard actually really wanted me, and they were really the only Division I school that wanted me. And so, you know, for me, it's like, yeah, I get a great education. I get to go there, have a spot on the team, and you know, from there, just try to work my way up.
Right. When you didn't get drafted in 2010, were you surprised? Were you expecting to get drafted late second round? What was your thought process? I
thought it was a 50-50 chance. I thought I had probably 3 really good workouts, and one of them was here in New York. And I actually thought that if I didn't get drafted by New York, probably wasn't going to get drafted at all.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, not getting drafted by New York is probably a badge of honor. They almost never make the right draft, man. So that's a good thing. So when you finally got, let's fast forward a little bit. When you finally got time to really play, because you obviously, you know, you went to these other places. You were in Dallas you had a cup of coffee with Dallas. You're in Golden State. You're in these places. Then you end up in New York, and you're on the bench. And then suddenly there's some injuries, some stuff happens. Teams in disarray. They put you in the game, and you drop 25. What were you thinking?
Man, I was like, I remember after that game, I was in the shower and I was just like crying tears of joy. I was just like, dude, they can't cut me. Like, they have to keep me. Like, after this, they have to keep me.
Wow. So you were just happy to have a permanent spot on the team or a secure spot on the team.
Yeah. I mean, I was, you know, I didn't even get an apartment or anything. I was just kind of like living off my brother and sister-in-law, and I was just kind of waiting to see what was going to happen, just kind of day to day, week to week, hoping I'd be there.
Yeah.
And after that, I was just, to be honest, I was just happy that I could be in the same, like on the same team until, you know, April when the season ended. So I was pretty excited.
Wow. And then you run off that entire string. I just want to talk about the Lakers game. Because, again, as much trash as I talk, I was cheering for you during that time. Because people were talking way too much. Like people like, you know, like Floyd Mayweather and others would say, you don't even belong in the NBA, which was just not true to me. You were killing it for this string. You dropped 38 on the Lakers. You know, and a couple of possessions, Kobe was guarding you. That had to be extra special.
Yeah, that was like, in terms of like hype going into a game, I don't think like I've ever been a part of a more talked about game than that one going in. It was just like, you know, New York, LA, like in New York, and it was just insane. And so. And
that was the game you were supposed to get shut down.
Yeah,
that was the game
kind of
like
arguing about it or something. I didn't know at the time because I wasn't listening to any of the news or reading anything. But then, like later on, it was kind of like people were debating, and it was like, oh, they have Andrew Bynum and Pau Gasol, and it'll be tough to, you know, score and stuff. But you know, I just told myself, I was like, look, I'm gonna be really, really aggressive and see if we can get out here with the win.
Well, it worked for you, man. It worked for you. You had a good run up until you played the Miami Heat. You remember that game?
No, I definitely remember.
Of course, you remember that game. Mario Chalmers was guarding you full court, and that's when I was like, okay, there's some holes here that can be fixed. I mean, young players, that's what they have to go through.
Yeah.
But did you feel there was a point where you felt as if the hype was too much, even for you, where people were overstating how good you were, that they were backing you into a corner?
Yeah, I mean, I think. You know, I don't think through the whole process I was very comfortable at all. It was just actually a funny thing. I told the story yesterday, but after the New Jersey game, I told my brother and sister, I was like, I really hope I don't start the next game because like that's just going to be like a lot at once, you know, and they're just going to throw me into it. And I literally hadn't run a single like practice with the first team. I had never played with them ever before, ever been on the floor at the same time as them. And I was just like, oh my goodness, don't put me in the first lineup. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. But everything kind of just happened so fast and built on so fast. And then it, you know, I would say the hype was definitely, you know, exaggerated. And then I think that created a polarizing effect where then some people were like, okay, no, he can't play at all. And I think now what you see is, you know, 2 extremes. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, I just think it's somewhere, there's a soft spot somewhere in the middle that I think is probably more accurate.
And that's fair. Why'd you leave New York? Why'd you really leave New York?
I think the, you know, I'm not sure if you could say I left New York.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's exactly accurate, but I would just say, I think God has a perfect plan for me, and I ended up in Houston, and the way it all happened, without getting into too many details, is just it was restricted free agency, and so in some sense, there was only so much that I could control, and not everything was in my control.
Restricted free agency. Another team makes an offer. The Knicks reserve the right to keep you if they match the offer. Houston made a pretty significant offer for you, particularly in the back end of the contract.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that the Knicks didn't resign you, particularly since at the end of the season you played in, they said he's coming back?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I was surprised, but
were you hurt?
I mean,
no, I mean,
I'm human, so
yeah,
of course.
It's a business, but some people take it. Yeah,
of course. And like, even though everyone understands it's a business, it never it doesn't matter if you understand if it's a business or not. We're all humans, so we all have emotions. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely unexpected, but it's like I said, it's all working out, and it's all part of the plan. And so, but yeah, I thought the way it happened definitely wasn't what I thought was going to happen based on what I was hearing.
No, absolutely. You end up in Houston. You're a starting point guard now. You're a backup point guard in Houston. Would you be open to going to another team if you were a situation where you could start?
I think it depends. I think I really want to win as well. I don't think I want to go to a team where maybe you're kind of going to the season. You're just like, okay, we have no chance.
Right.
I don't think that's as fun. But I think my role with the Rockets right now is really, it's a good role for me. I think I get a chance to play. I mean, I get to play starters minutes. I get to have a role, bigger than, some starters on other teams.
Absolutely.
And so from that sense, I've kind of learned it's not really about all that. I think my first year in Houston, I started, but I didn't finish a lot of games. And now I'm not starting, but I'm finishing pretty much every game. I think I'd much rather have, my situation now.
Fair enough. We got some comments coming in and some community here who want to talk to you. The HuffPost Live community is very excited to talk to you. They're fans of Jeremy Lin, and they want to talk. Robert Silverman is a contributor at The Daily Beast. He's also an editor at knickerblogger.net. Those blasted New York Knicks. We hate them. I'm a Sixer fan. I'm speaking for myself, not Jeremy. Sharona also joins us. Sharona's a sports blogger. Robert, I'm going to start with you. What's your question for Jeremy?
Sure. Jeremy, you've had let's say an exciting first couple of years of your pro career. What are the aspects of your game that you still feel that you need to work on the most in order to get to that next level, whether or not Mark is going to, so that Mark will stop hating on you?
That's a great question. I think, one thing I want to focus on, definitely just continue to bring up my three-point percentage. I think it's gone up every year, but I want to be a 40% shooter from the three-point line, and that's what I was in college for a year, and I think as long as I continue to improve, I'm at 36 right now, and I want to shoot up to 40. I think things like defense and my left hand are things that I want to continue to improve. I do think that I've improved a lot in those areas, and maybe that hasn't been as widely recognized, perhaps, but I do think I've made huge strides in those areas, and I think it's just something for me where I need to continue to build on it. And I would say that before it was like a complete weakness and it was a complete hole in my game, and now I think it's more around the average area, but I want to make it so that it improves into like a strength.
Yes. I just want to point out, for the record, some people call me a hater. 2 years ago when I wrote that piece, all I said was that Jeremy's weaknesses were going left, both defensively and to his left hand, shooting off the left hand, and also off the pick and roll. Things you would agree with, right?
Yeah, I for sure. I'll be the first to tell you where my holes are, and I have a lot of holes.
And a lot of pros do. They're all stars who have huge holes in their game. So again, I ain't said nothing that Jeremy Lin didn't just agree with. So we're gonna go to Sharona in 1 second, but there's some questions coming in from the HuffPost Live community that I want to bring in. One is, if you have a choice of any NBA coach team to play for, who would it be and why?
Any NBA coaching team. So I can choose a coach and put him on a team.
Yeah.
Who would you think my coach would play for?
You've been doing this media thing long enough. He's like, I ain't answering that. All right, take your own coach out the situation, right? Let's take.
No, I'll answer it, but I was just saying, I think it's obvious
honestly,
who I would want to play for.
I'd like you to play for D'Antoni.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's point guard centered, and he loves pick and rolls, which you play really well off of. Not necessarily shooting off, but playing off the pick and roll. The problem is D'Antoni don't coach no D. So, you know, I don't love D'Antoni, but I think coaches like him work for you, guys. And there are others who are better coaches who I think you need a pick and roll based coach. You need a point guard center coach. D'Antoni, anybody else you like?
Well, I haven't had that many coaches I've played for. Let me see. I've really played for 4 coaches, I would say. I definitely like playing for D'Antoni, obviously. I think I respect a lot about what Mikhail is doing and bringing into the Houston system.
What are some shortcomings of the Mikhail system?
You know, I don't know if it's a shortcoming in the system. I just think we don't know how, like, because it was our first year together introducing Dwight, we haven't been able to maximize on everything. So a lot of things that he preaches, we're still unable to do effectively. Mm-hmm. And I think what we're trying to do in Houston isn't that far off offensively from the standpoint than what you see with San Antonio. I just think they've had a lot more time together, so they make it look a lot better. Yeah. So I don't necessarily. I think we all agree with what we're trying to do. We're just it's hard to get there sometimes.
San Antonio guards people, man. Watching y'all in the playoffs was hard, man. I love y'all, man, but y'all ain't guard nobody, man.
Yeah, and I mean, our defense is definitely one of our issues right now, and I would say, you know, that's another thing where it's just like, whether it's lack of communication or different things, you know, or misinterpretations or not being able to not being used to the things that we're trying to do. And so it's hard to really blame the system, quote unquote, as it is more just we have to get around to doing it more often. And the more time we have in it, the better we become.
Derek Fisher's going to be the new coach of the New York Knicks. Could you play for Derek Fisher?
I think I could. I think, to be honest, I think anybody could. I think he just immediately commands your respect. He was a great, great player, proven winner, very successful, and he's very knowledgeable, and he's been a point guard. He's been a leader all his career. And so actually I think a lot of players like to play for younger coaches or coaches that were players in the past.
Yeah. Would you be open to coming back to New York under the right circumstance, assuming they're winning, right? Or assuming they have a vision of winning?
Yeah, for sure. I've always said the New York fan base has embraced me like none other, and you know, I definitely haven't forgot about it, and I'm still extremely grateful for it. And I've always said, you know, if there's the right opportunity, you know, I definitely wouldn't be like, no, never. I for sure would be open to anything.
And if that opportunity were to be this summer during a trade, again, not backup minutes, starters minutes, you know, in the New York system, that'd be something you'd be open to.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing with trades is it's not whether you're open to it or not. It just happens. But if you were to ask me if that happened, you know, that would still be exciting to me. I would be excited. But staying in Houston and being on a championship contending team is extremely, extremely exciting to me as well. And I think, you know, I wouldn't be disappointed in either of those scenarios.
Fair enough. Sharona has a question for you.
Hey, Jeremy, Sharona here. Mark took one of my questions, so I'm going to throw a little bit of a non-basketball related question at you. You were just involved in an event with Patriot safety Patrick Chung, where you guys were talking to some kids up in Boston. It was very well received, and I've got a lot of good reviews. Are you excited about giving back to the community? And what other events or communities are you involved with that people might not know about?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Yeah, I was out there in Boston, and something that they told me that I learned out there was the highest poverty ethnicity was Asian at 30% out there, and I was, you know, that's something I didn't really know about, and so we kind of went to the Chinatown area and spent some time there, and that's something that I'm looking into. And Patrick Chung was great. He's been doing a lot of stuff down there already, so that was really cool.
I saw you tweeting about him earlier.
Yeah, really cool guy. You know, I guess some areas, I think Houston, Bay Area are pretty obvious that, you know, I'm there and I'm able to do stuff there. But I think we support a lot of things overseas as well. And in China last year, there was, you know, some earthquakes, and we were able to go and spend some time with the kids out there and kind of visit and see the destruction that had happened and how the community was trying to rebuild and regroup, and just for them to have that type of solidarity and for me to be able to go out there and support them, that was really cool. And so hopefully throughout my career, I'll be able to even go beyond just working within specific communities. I think one thing we try to do too is create YouTube videos or campaigns where everyone can get involved in, and you don't have to be in a specific place to do that. It could be loving and serving someone that you either work with or is at your school or something like that, something that easy and accessible.
All right, thank you, Sharona, for joining us. Thank you, Rob, for joining us as well. Hope those New York Knicks play better, just not too good.
Don't worry, they'll still be better than the Sixers.
That ain't saying much, man. That ain't saying much these days, Jeremy. It's a real pleasure to have you come in here, man. Thank you so much for talking to me, man. Come back whenever you want, man. Hopefully it'll be when you're here as a member of the New York Knicks, though. That'll make things a lot easier for me. Anyway, if you want more information about the Jeremy Lin Foundation, and you should want more information about the amazing Jeremy Lin Foundation, check out the resource well below. All the links are there. Stay with us. This is HuffPost Live.